Welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D Collective. As we were talking about in the short, when people understand that those first 3 years of life are important, they will take a closer look at, are you being a person who loves to live yourself and your story from the depths of you, or are you a person who is loving the story of you and the narrative of the purpose? So when I meet teenagers, is what I call them Cuscos, also adaptive child parts, and those would be all of the individuals who are supporting staying in their little fight response. The two names I mentioned, Lisa, let me go grab her name for a minute, Lisa something Feldman, and Robert Sapolsky he wrote the book Determined, so you can check him out. But Robert talks about, the importance of our prefrontal and how those first 3 years of life count. So does Bessel van der Kolk, so does Stephen Porges, so do a lot of Peter Levine. Human beings who are smart, the ones who don't believe them, we leave it alone because they're just keeping the space for the ones who want to stay Cuscos. And so like teenagers in high school, peer pressure, right? It's not really peer pressure, more it's Peter Pan with the lost boys, lost girls, and lost days. So anyone following 7 to 14 charming and the ones who are not supporting yoga, mindfulness, good therapy, it's because of them not supporting something that leads you to your health that I know they are a 7 to 14 charming. Also, they spit out shit from their mouth all the time. Shame, vengeance, evil, Knievel, medieval, ancient history, and a lot more. But like I said, they're not taken seriously because I know where they come from. Robert Sapolsky, Determined, as he says no free will. I say there is free will for the ones who learn and choose to do human love versus human suffering, but there's still those who will choose that other side of the coin. Lisa Feldman Barrett, she wrote a book called Seven and a Half Brain, something like that. Let me grab it. 7.5 lessons about the brain, and as she points out, the brain is running a model of its body. The brain uses past experiences to decipher what it senses. Examples, the sound of what is it wind or is it a gunshot? Okay, when the brain makes predictions, it's crafting a category of instances from the past which are similar in some ways to the present. And we also know about how Bessel van der Kolk shares with you the body keeps a score. Peter Levine, again, sensations, images, affects, meanings, and behaviors come up, and our trauma charges are stored muscles, bones, and tissues. With that being said, when you meet those who are Cuscos, like teenagers, they will consistently be in a very specific mode. That's that survival mode. And I learned from my attachment trauma courses that it is that fight response that typically is the lead until a person takes seriously going to someone like Patrick Tiahan to heal their own childhood trauma. And so they get the 0-1-year-old, attached panicky, 3 to 7 shame submissive, the freeze of all ages, flight 11, 12, and fight 14, 15, 16, uncharged, with them being in the lead. And once they're in the lead, then here's where you come to be self-empowered with us, healthy self-worth people, and to be basically in love with our life as ourselves while sharing it authentically with others, and it's from the depths of ourselves. So we get to be devoted to being the genuine person that you can be. And with that radical acceptance, you have that which is integrity. Let me read to you the beautiful quote that I have. You've heard it a couple of times. Wait, I can't find it right now. Of course I can't. Give me 1 second. What other people say about you doesn't matter, but you should not be ashamed of what you have done. But in order for you to get to no shame, you have to get to your child parts. Your 0-1-year-old, attached, panicky, 3 to 7, shame submissive. You need to be able to see yourself, soothe yourself, safe, secure, become that inner child adult. And so it's once you have self-compassion, self-love, and you know how to love yourself, that the sword, your thoughts, and your emotions, your heart, are going to be whole, and then you're going to be a truly confident person who's connected. And so your pure consciousness is embodying the unconditional love. Some of us are also connected. God, Holy Spirit, Akash, dark matter, dark energy. Others, they get to be the version of their true self that is going to love to live and love to laugh and love to love and love to learn and love to read and love all, and not cast stones, because we don't do characterological distinctions or judgments when you're uncharged. You do conversations. And I will give you a story. So as a mystic and somebody who comes with Jesus, with God, and on this journey, as I got to learn more about attachment trauma, at a certain point I was like, okay, this is really good. People don't need us. Who's us? Any one of us who are those who can support through the spirituality toolkit that we have, but also those who are life coaches, mindfulness coaches, the in-betweens is what I'm going to call them right now. Whether it's sciences in-betweens or spirituality in-betweens, because we have a buttload of good therapists. Now we have some that are not, but we have a buttload of good therapists. And when I came to that awareness, part of me was like, "Aw, so I'm not needed." And then I was like, "But that's great news." And that was because I was like, everyone, thanks Robert Sapolsky, Lisa Feldman, Bezel Vanderkolk, everyone can get back to their origin, unpause that self, and learn to be their true self, and to undo, because you can heal from trauma. All of it with your will and a good therapist. EMDR, child parts work, somatic, sensory motor. That's including personality disorders. Okay, so with that being said, I was like, oh, and excited. Not even 2 seconds later, my brain was happy about this, because it's like, okay, ego, it's okay. So the child in you that's like, oh no, so I'm not needed, even though this is where for me I don't have this fear thing from our mammalian heritage of, oh no, so I'm out of the herd now, I'm in danger. Okay, and that's why it's not hard for me to be myself, because I'm not afraid of somebody rejecting in this inside world that the good therapists explain, evolutionary psychologists actually. Let me read to you another quote. An existential psychologist will talk to you about that too. So Maria's meaning, I give it meaning, but really I have loved ones, so I'm meaningful to them. And then what I do here, I do it because I bring it to the ones who will benefit from it, and I know that they will come. So this is also blind faith. It's called I'm at ease. It's called I know what I'm offering without the lack. I'm not afraid of losing anyone or losing anything. Russell Colt's PhD, being terrified that a rupture means the end of a relationship sets you up from the very beginning to have a relationship that isn't genuine, that isn't real, that doesn't involve being able to just be yourself. And then I have our lovely Sadhguru, a couple quotes, one of which fits what I was talking about too. Only when you're absolutely devoted to what you do can you produce something significant in the world. And there's another, only one who has insight, who sees what others do not, can be a true leader. Now, Sadhguru doesn't know the psych education. I do. It is when you are an integrated brain, a restorative embodiment self, so you don't have any trauma charges lingering. You're not rigid, you're not unforgiving, you're not harsh. You have your own implicit biases, not biases. You know how to be in a room with somebody who's your complete opposite. Complete opposite. Everything you detest, they're that. You don't feel disgusted in their presence. Here, for real, not pretend. If you're pretending, you don't have to be Pacha. You can be Cusco. That's the adaptive child, though. That's the 14-month-old, the 3-year-old, and it's an individual who can become mindfully aware. My own emotions and thoughts are not irrefutable facts, nor do I have to make characterological distinctions with them, which is casting the stone. And I have met a bounty full of human beings who they don't do processing. They don't own their sense of self, their core, their narrative or relational. They don't observe, witness, narrate, and say, hey, this charge is unnecessary. I can process you. Thanks for being here. And in non-reactivity and in neutrality and in my ventral vagal state, I'm a differentiated self who says, I'm okay with being Maria. You're going to be you. I'm not afraid of a rupture. In fact, I'm not afraid if you don't like me, Eric, because you're not liking my tail. If I notice that you don't know how to tell me you don't like my tail, I'm going to leave it alone because I know you're a Cusco. And adaptive child parts and patterns in people, yeah. So when you meet people who pretend, that's what I call the facade. It's people who don't learn to be emotionally, mentally, and physically mature. And that's a good portion of individuals because they're 14-month-old and 3-year-old and their likes and dislikes rule them. And like Denzel Washington points out, in fact, they don't defend what's right, but really it's not about right or wrong, and it's not about defending. But he says they don't defend what's right anymore, they defend who they like. It's not that. They're going to be two groups of people. So the ones who come here, it's because you do mindfulness, spirituality, and you like intelligence, so tapping into your infinite higher human conscious potential. Otherwise you won't be back here. Powerful emotions feel like irrefutable facts. Kristen Lindquist, effective realism. Okay, so I met people that don't even know how to be mature in college, which is why I'm not impressed or surprised with what I see on YouTube. I also meet academics who are just as unimpressive. Anytime you meet Cusco, you meet a teenager in a room. So you know what teenagers do? They're in love with their story. Oh yeah, like that Zen master. He'll use the word Zen, but he doesn't know how to do laundry. He doesn't know how to do emotions from his prefrontal. It's called his secondary consciousness. You'd think he'd have some honor in not using the word Zen. That's how I'm going to bring it to you. You see people saying, oh, but you're expecting him to be perfect? No, I'm not. I'm just expecting that if he's going to use the word Zen master, that he's going to think about it. But wait a minute, that's what teenagers don't do, is it? So spiritual bypassers, mantles of mental health, they all lack the self-awareness, accountability, and regulation skills of the very, lo and behold, pachas in the world. So when I see fancy man and women in suit, I know who's going to them. It's all the individuals who have attachment wounds, attachment ruptures, insecure attachment. That's why they want to do, we're all special and you're not. And they want this in and out. So I'm laughing not because it's funny. I actually don't find it humorous to see stupidity on anywhere. Because see, to me, you lacking self-awareness makes you stupid because you're blind to your ego. I'm not blind to my ego. She's right here. I just don't project it because I don't need your thumbs up. So I'm being Maria without needing you to like me. In fact, if you find me disgusting, I won't take too much offense because really the people that matter the most when it comes to something like that is going to be something called the circle of people that you are loving to share life with. And since I am a grown-up woman, I know all about how to be okay, safe haven, secure base. You learn, especially when someone says, I thought you would change. I got told this at a certain point. How old was I at that point? 25. And I was like, excuse me? I'm confused right now. After 4 years, you think I'm changing? I told you I don't change. I don't understand. And then at a certain point, eventually, I got told something similar. And this was in a situation where I was like, I just said I want to be accepted for being myself. Maybe I didn't say it right enough. So when you accept who you are, you're not trying to get somebody to say yes to you. Your heart is in love with you all by yourself. And of course, I want to share my life with others, but I'm not going to change me for you. It's called I'm not ashamed of Maria because I'm a mystic, because I'm polyamory, because whatever it is. This is the part that makes me laugh when I'm seeing a woman who thinks she's empowered. It's really hard work to make a relationship work. And I'm like, okay, you're a codependent human being. Your world revolves around one person. No, if something happens, your life's going to be devastated. He's not going to want you to be devastated, and yet you're going to be emotionally so devastated that you might not. So my brain is not about like, no, people don't fall. No, falling, well, one, love. You can only love if you know how to love yourself first for real. Otherwise, it's a codependent type thing. But of course, people can love in this way. But thinking of it as hard work, and feeling it as hard work tells me that a good therapist like Terry Rio can help you better than you on screen, making it seem like you're an empowered woman. You're not. You're not empowered if your world revolves around one human being. It's so hard to make it work, and then what happens if he goes? You have lost all meaning and purpose, which means you're going to be devastated, which tells me that you're vulnerable in a way that is unnecessary, by the way, because you can still love a human being, but be completely emotionally, mentally, and physically independent. That fancy woman, when she's doing the women, gather around. If they fuck you, remember, I don't want you to think this is the exact reason. I don't find her impressive. I just thought, shit, all these women are laughing. I'm back to my teenage years thinking of teenager women who are like, you're not emotional. You don't have emotions. I'm not being dramatic. There's 8 billion men out there, people. Why are you so big a deal? Get another one. They broke up with you. What's up? So, long story short, let's conclude with love is easy for the ones who are empowered, if it's real. Our 0 1-year-old wants one securely attached figure. That's why this person, whoever they are, it's so hard work. I'm just thinking, what the hell happened? Did you have to work that hard for your parents to love you? Because as Terry Real points out, you will treat others the way you were treated. So that's, again, determined your first 3 years of life, which is why Robert Sapolsky has a point. So does Lisa Feldman, or whatever her last name is. So does this lovely other lady, Kristen Lindquist. Any of the good therapists, sciences, neurosciences, they all explain how you can be emotionally, mentally, and physically independent. Now, if you want to, with people following the fancy cheerleaders and fancy jocks, that's just the masses. Again, I'm not surprised because, well, I mean, I really wish I could be surprised, but I was a teenager when I already noticed the masses being the masses. And what you find out is that any individual who doesn't learn to become their true self, well, they're following somebody to look good like them, and they have insecurity, and they want to be, it's a flat earthers. You know why they were there? They found each other. So they all came together under one purpose and one meaning, and now they're all cheering each other on. So that's, great for them. I'm here for the ones who, again, we're ourselves, we're enjoying healthy self-worth conversations, and we want to make fun of anything and everyone. We're not censoring, and also we like smart people. Also, we like true leadership, and as Sadhguru points out, only one who has insight, who sees what others do not, can be a true leader. You won't be able to see the truth if you don't know how to be neutral when it comes to your emotional stuff. If you don't know how to calm those thoughts and that which comes up, which is why this woman, wedding bells, don't think of wedding bells after a man fucks you. I'm not into the stereotypes, but I definitely never thought wedding bells because my men friends made sure I would understand the object that I am, which makes me not only, anytime I think about this, I've always told my friends, you're asking me to basically think of you as stupid. And they'd say, no, you don't understand. And they would begin to get pissy. So I learned how to disengage completely as I got older because, again, as a teenager, I chose to hear people, and then as I got older, I got busy with smart people, and whenever I met some teenagers, again, I'm not going to pay attention to it because you're Cusco. Now, I also know that they're the same ones who don't go to people like Patrick Tiahan, and they're all over YouTube following each other around, acting like they're badass, and they're not. They're in love, though, with the narrative, like the twin flame thing. It's a real deal, not the shit show that you will have seen on there. In fact, finally, I saw some people awakening to the truth, which is their self. So we have individuals who are able to experience their twin flame journey with a emotional, mental, and physical independence, understanding that we're choice points for each other. And so the story to conclude is when somebody is not in love with their life from the depths of them, here's what they do. And this is for the, well, it can be sciences or spirituality, because they're going to think of themselves as needed. Otherwise, the earth is going to crumble. So in one situation, I have mystics who are presenting themselves as fundamental to our earth moving into the 5D frequency. Number one. And just the way it made me think. Anybody watched The Beautiful Mind, A Beautiful Mind? Yeah. So I didn't pick up on the fact that only he was seeing what he was seeing. I also didn't know it was a true story. And now that once I found out, I was like, that's impressive. I'm so amazed. And so he is a person who had, well, I don't know. I don't want to give it away. So I won't share anything because it was a really good movie. I enjoyed that one a lot. My smart friend, he was able to notice. He said, really, Maria, you didn't notice? I said, no, I didn't notice anything. You know me on that point. I don't notice some things. Long story short, though, it made me think of A Beautiful Mind, because this is where, at a certain point, he's trying to hide his identity. So people that are 4D mystics, they consistently, some of them, have these conspiracy things going on. Whether it's aliens from the sky or people in the government, they're like, I need to hide my identity. And I'm not kidding with y'all. These individuals, they really think that they're special in the sense of needed. And I'm thinking, do you not realize that, one, if you were in any way, shape, or form physically a threat, you would be... I'm a political science major. Again, I don't have questions on how the system works. I know how the system works. Also, my master's is in international relations and diplomacy, so I'm not confused on those things. I'm just woo lady because I'm a mystic. So I leave it alone, because when I meet the 4D mystics, I already know I got an insecure person in front of me, and it's not my place to say anything because their story is too good to be true. No, because it's a person. You're going to be a person with another person. When it comes to sciences, well, they just, how many egoic human beings have we met within those industries? I've seen them. They think that everything that they're sharing is like amazing. And I'm thinking, yeah, Jerry Seinfeld, he makes a really good point in one of his comedy skits or whatever. He says, the difference between great and not so great, something like that. It was hilarious. He's like, that place was great, but it's not so great, something like that. And I'm like, you know what, you're right, Jerry. So when it comes to information between philosophers, social sciences, humanities, I have I don't even know how many books, and I was looking at them. So one of them that's really good for anybody who likes, it's for master's level, so only if you like in-depth reads, otherwise don't, because I'm political science, and for me, again, it was one that I had to calmly get through. The Social Construction of Reality, a treatise in the sociology of knowledge, Peter L. Berger and Thomas Luckman. This is really good. This one's for kids, but it was one of the first books that I ever read, and actually it's the first book that I read from the beginning to the end, but I didn't go to see the end because I don't like suspense. So when I was reading books, I would go to the end because I just want to see how it ends. Instead, this one I read from the beginning without peeking at the end, and it's called Maniac McGee, and his story is really beautiful. And so I won't give it away. You can all go read the little insert. But on that note, when you are a person who loves what you do, and while you're doing it, you're not doing it for the story, this is where you're going to understand that difference with your purpose from a mentally, physically, emotionally mature spot, which is where that secure attachment comes in, which is where people who don't have secure attachment, there's these coaches, which I find completely if you're going to do secure attachment, meaning you're a coach to help people get to secure attachment, you saying that secure attachment is boring, you're kind of defeating the purpose of what your role is supposed to be. You're supposed to motivate them to get towards their health, not tell them that it's boring, because that's not what it is, number one. But number two, I know why they're saying boring, because I've been explained with pseudo-alive people who are learned on dysregulation, the visceral, that fighting shit. Okay, so it's an energy that, for me who knows healthy self-soothing mechanisms with my ventral vagal, I don't like it. I stopped venting at a certain point because I was poisonous. I learned how to bring my prefrontal cortex, and I'm like, I don't need to be back and forth with all these emotions. I can sit in the middle. So I was mindfully aware already of how to work with my brain without knowing any of the technical verbiage, and choosing it on my own, because why wouldn't I? And anytime I was making these movements and trying to get people around me to support me to become more emotionally mature, but you're human, Maria, you have to have emotions. You have to. I said, yes, but my emotions, I can work with them. I don't have to do it this way. And what you find out from smart human beings, like the somatic therapist from my Awakened Embodied certificate course, they have a word for those of us who are restorative embodied. They call it the angry Buddhist. We're just not all Buddhists. And that's exactly why Sadhguru's yoga and everything he offers leads you to restorative embodiment. His philosophy leads you to being a person who can be a mature, functional adult, like a Terry Real can help you too. Dr. Daniel Siegel. So the good therapist can help you just as much. In fact, I highly suggest bringing in the psych education, because Sadhguru doesn't give it to you. And so you won't be able to make the connection. Also, if you're not your inner child adult, well, then you're going to continue to be in a specific space like these people who, when I would say, we're not special, right? We're people. Our clairs are not special gifts. We don't have any one of us the short end of the stick. That's a subjective experience. I mean, think of your stick. So what I'm trying to say is, when people with clairs would come around, and I've met a bountiful thinking that we are perceiving human suffering more than others, one, it's not true. We're just aware of it. But two, they're busy in the story of saying that they're saving, and here's our blamers, martyrs, superiors, codependent, 0-1-year-old with a 3-year-old. And here's where another story, this one is one where they denied themselves to continue having clairs because they got accused by their entire herd of having brought bad luck. So this person who had clairs, they have some still, but this other thing that they were beginning to notice or that they were picking up on, I don't want to give the details out. I just want to share the fact that, and she's not the only one, there's other 2 people, 4 that I know that denied themselves to connect because the sense of I didn't do what I was supposed to do, like a child, when a child feels guilty for not having brought to the household. This is why it's childhood trauma textbook. It's an attachment wound textbook. And the verbiage, if they would go and get that stuff taken care of, but you have therapists who don't know how to be, they're emotionally mature. This is exactly why I'm presenting all sides. You will find there's pachas and then there's not. Anybody who's not doesn't know how to forgive because they're not ready to, because they haven't even began to learn about their inner child and to be able to soothe those child parts as a grown-up. That's why you reparent them. I didn't need to reparent. Mine didn't get lost. Mine didn't get thrown away. I didn't get defective. I'm an inner child adult because I had a good adult, and that's exactly why secure attachment is not boring, nor is your ventral vagal state. It's really empowering. But if you don't get out of the other stuff, you won't know yet. And that's why some people, they do the therapy and they say, I want to do personal development and self-help. I want to do life now. There's your free will, Robert. So some have it that big of a deal, but what I'm trying to say is that they might not want to do the therapy, and they have other people they can follow, but others, they have done it and they still don't want to do more of the mental, emotion, physical maturity because, again, the benefit is going to be seen in time. The Zen master has laundry. So it's in time that you get to become in love with yourself, and then from the depths of you be in love with a day-to-day and not think of it as ooh or not, the pseudo-life, and wanting the fantasy stage and this fantasy stuff that you'll hear from emotionally unavailable people. I can bring that one into the mix. And I'm chopping it up a little bit, but I'm trying to help you all conceptualize that the adaptive child is a person who is not yet out of their fight response, their survival safety behavior. Now, they're teenagers still ruling, which is why it feels good for them to say, I'm going to be in that empowerment energy. In fact, I've seen it where they think that they're supposed to stay in the modulated embodiment of their self to stand up for something, which is where people who are experts will be going, no, because that's not the health of your body. That's the distress of your body. Sympathetic is distress. The fight flight is this. So you can learn to be in an ease state in time with your will to want to be there. And again, it's why the free will to me is this, where we have smart human beings, even pseudoscience lady who mixes shit up, but still you have options. There's 2. Continue doing whatever ancestors did. At the end of the day, as long as people follow laws, we can have all the Cuscos in the world. There's going to be consistently 2 to anything really, and it's not only 2, it's that we have different ways that we hear things, different ways that we're interested in things, we have different focuses, we have different desires. You're motivated also in different ways. Motivation is something that is important, and so a lot of different layers. We'll be back to talk about that some more, but in the meantime, the ones who think that they are needed, it's egoic, and at the same time, it's what gives them purpose and what gives them meaning. And this is why they are not the expert yogis who are married to that darkness that Sadhguru talks about. And we're going to conclude with that one, because see, that darkness is the secondary consciousness of you is aware that you're awake, and it's aware that you will die, the basic of it. The mammalian heritage of you wants to be needed. That's like we actively will need one attachment figure because of the animal kingdom out there. Now, for me, being born with a twin, I believe makes the biggest difference of all, because I didn't have this this aloneness, the way that the evolutionary existential psychologists, the good therapists that I've learned from, the way they explain it. So I'm like, okay, I've been always in the presence of another mammal since the moment I was in the womb. We're monozygote, the one, I forget how to pronounce it, but one sac, okay? And so you can imagine with what is explained, to me, it makes sense that I'm not afraid of being cut out of the herd because I don't have a lone someone me. I have a two me. Okay, and so for survival, I don't have this fear. If we want to go according to those, they're not stories. The different hypotheses, theories, right? Okay, so with that being said, the others who instead have this, that's that reason for being needed if we look at it from the evolutionary perspective. And so the motivation, there's self-agency, bonding, and what was the other one? Certainty. These are three that Dr. Daniel Siegel has given me. And so we each have a contour of things that you can look at for yourself. Once you are stable, though, with your mental, emotional, physical decisions, as you use your human name, and you don't fall for that peer pressure stuff, so societal pressure, just imagine teenagers, and then you understand that you don't have meaning, but you can have meaning, but you allow yourself to be at ease with it here. Okay, that's the part of why Sabine, for example, one of my books is a physicist lady, forget her last name, but she in the introduction says her book has had some people, they don't have the capacity to sleep at night because of her explaining existential physics is the book's name. And I'm like, okay, that can make sense, because as Sadhguru was explaining darkness in the audience, we got a woman who interrupts him saying, Sadhguru, please stop, you're scaring us. And I mean, he's not doing anything scary, he's just talking about darkness and no light and something like that. And I just could hear from the tone, this lady's just completely upset inside, which again, the human secondary consciousness, I understand this, but logically and emotionally speaking, if you're mature enough, you will be able to understand 24 hours. This is that now, that presence in the prefrontal, which even the Zen master doesn't have, which is something that personally, again, determined. I already looked at this when I was a teenager, and Marcus Aurelius is the one who supported me to not worry about it, because I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up and I'd be crying and I'd be like, I don't want to die, I don't want to forget all my loved ones. and it would be so, dramatic for me, but it was something that was unnecessary. And I just read this quote, I'm like, he's right. Why worry about something that you can't do anything about? I'm going to die eventually, so might as well accept it, and there you go. And so when you can be straightforward with yourself and the emotion, and it's not because you want to minimize it, it's not because it's meaningless. No, it means a lot to me, but at the same time, there's nothing I can do. So when you're presented, I have to accept something that I don't like, and you accept it full on, not because you justify it, not because you hide it, because you say it's something that I cannot physically change, which is also why that forgiveness and blind faith and ease comes from when you're objective with, I'm in the presence of a wall and there's no way for me to change that. But we're talking about a figure of speech for what instead are thoughts and emotions that are your conceptualization, your way of living reality. So that's why it's different for a person in life, because let's not bring anybody to physically walls, okay? You know what I'm saying? Whenever somebody wants to bring in that, I'm just thinking that's not what it is. You want softness with thoughts, softness with emotions. That's what mindfulness can support you to do if you choose it. You don't have to, and if you don't, again, those Cuscos are bountiful out there, and they're continuing to live their highlights. And we'll be back in the meantime with more. Thank you for stopping by. Hope you had a good day.